It looked like Lexie Hull is opening up about Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever locker room. Guys, for this one here,
everyone thought the Indiana Fever locker room was just experiencing some growing pains, a natural adjustment to the blinding spotlight of Caitlin Clark. But what Lexie Hull just revealed could shatter that carefully constructed narrative, exposing a deeper, more entrenched tension that's been simmering just beneath the surface all season. This isn't just about a team learning to play together, it's about the seismic shift in an entire franchise's identity, and not everyone is thrilled with the new direction. The offseason may have just begun, but the drama is far from over, and Lexie's subtle hints speak volumes about the unspoken resentments that could define the Fever's future.
Get a signature shoe.
I think Caitlin should be the next to get a signature shoe.
And when she gets her shoe, can we expect you to be wearing it?
I will be wearing it.
Lexie didn't drop a bombshell expose, but her recent interviews and appearances, from earnest podcasts to casual sneaker videos, carried an unmistakable undertone of dissatisfaction. She navigated questions about the Fever's locker room vibe with the practiced diplomacy of someone trying desperately to maintain decorum while subtly signaling distress. When asked about her time in Indiana, she offered the standard, almost rehearsed reply, "I've loved my years here in Indiana. I love the people, the fans, the franchise." It was the kind of perfectly worded statement you hear from someone accepting an award or, more tellingly, preparing to leave a job. But it was the pregnant pause that followed, the unspoken but hanging heavy in the air, that truly resonated with fans and insiders alike. That silent gap spoke louder than any direct accusation, hinting at a truth far more complex than Team PR would ever admit.
Lexie Hull is currently, on a little media run. Lexie Hull is one of the biggest names this offseason. I feel like Lexie Hull is going to be getting a major payday in regards to her basketball abilities on the court. Now, with that being said, this article has been released, and it goes on to say Lexie gets real about Caitlin Clark, Indiana Fever locker room, and offseason uncertainty.
That unspoken but wasn't just a moment of hesitation. It was a powerful echo of a season riddled with tension, on-court frustrations, and what many fans delicately termed miscommunication. Lexie's comments about her own uncertainty regarding her future with the team only amplified the subtext, suggesting that things behind the scenes were far from the harmonious picture the Fever's public image often tried to paint. This team, after all, endured one of the most scrutinized, criticized, and talked about seasons in WNBA history. You'd expect such intense attention to forge an unbreakable bond, but instead, sources close to the team, amplified by countless fan podcasts and social media threads, suggest the atmosphere became a pressure cooker. Some players adapted to the relentless media glare that followed Caitlin Clark everywhere, but others, especially veterans like Lexie, who'd seen the Fever through its quieter pre-Clark days, clearly struggled with living in the shadow of the league's biggest star. During her interview with Soul Retriever, the popular sneaker channel, Lexie appeared relaxed, yet there was a weariness in her eyes, a subtle hint that she was done pretending everything was perfectly fine. And then, almost casually, she dropped a comment about Caitlin Clark probably having the best sneaker game because she gets the most free shoes. But this seemingly innocent observation carries far more weight than it appears, hinting at the deeper, often unstated resentments brewing beneath the surface of the WNBA's new era.
Options out there.
Who on the Fever has the best sneaker game and who needs a little bit of help?
And who needs a little bit of help?
Yeah.
I would say I think Caitlin has the best sneaker game because
Everyone saw Lexie Hull's comments about Caitlin Clark's sneaker game as a playful jab, a lighthearted compliment, but the truth behind it hints at a deeper, simmering tension within the Indiana Fever locker room. When someone says, yeah, she has the best sneaker game because she gets the most free stuff, it's almost impossible not to hear a subtle undertone of irritation, a quiet frustration bubbling just beneath the surface. What makes this even more fascinating is that the interview wasn't even meant to be about team drama. It was supposed to be a simple chat about shoes. Yet somehow it instantly morphed into the most talked about off-season quote of the week, a testament to the intense scrutiny surrounding anything involving Caitlin Clark. Every sentence becomes a headline, every side-eye fuels a new theory, and Lexie's seemingly offhand remark, the blogs and social media ran with it like it was a game-winning buzzer beater, sparking widespread speculation about actual tension in the locker room, and whether Lexie was subtly, yet firmly, drawing a line in the sand. This wasn't just about footwear, it was Lexie's understated opening salvo in a much larger, more complex conversation that the WNBA community couldn't ignore. Lexie, however, didn't stop at just the sneaker comment. She then dropped another subtle bombshell about her own future, hinting at a potential exit to add an even spicier layer to her already loaded comments. She strategically reminded everyone that she's a restricted free agent. This isn't just casual conversation, it's a polite yet firm declaration that while she appreciates the fans and her time in Indiana, she's also keenly aware of her options. It's the professional equivalent of telling your current employer how much you've grown with the company, all while quietly updating your LinkedIn profile and fielding calls from recruiters. And if we're being brutally honest, Lexie has every logical reason to explore her options. She's consistently been a solid defensive presence, a reliable rotation player, and an integral, though often unheralded, part of the Fever's foundational growth. But when a franchise becomes overwhelmingly centered around one player, and that player happens to be Caitlin Clark, everyone else, regardless of their contributions, inevitably gets pushed to the background. This dynamic isn't inherently negative, but it creates an incredibly tricky environment when you're trying to build your own distinct identity and career. This wasn't just contract talk, it was a clear signal that she's looking for an environment where her significant contributions are equally valued and highlighted. As Lexie's comments reverberated across the internet, the WNBA fanbase erupted, carving out distinct battle lines and turning her words into a full-blown narrative. Some fans lauded her honesty, praising her for speaking a truth they felt others were too afraid to voice. Others interpreted it as expertly disguised shade, a respectful jab cloaked in a thinly veiled compliment. And then, predictably, there were the hardcore Caitlin Clark fans who immediately took it as a personal attack on their basketball hero, igniting a passionate defense. The WNBA offseason is no stranger to drama, but this particular episode felt different, with the Fever's locker room becoming the main stage for a league-wide debate. And in truth, this moment had been simmering for a while. You can only accumulate so many subtle comments, observe so many random social media unfollows, and endure so many "it's all love" interviews before astute observers start connecting the dots. This public drama was merely a symptom of a deeper structural issue within the team, an imbalance that was becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. Now, let's talk about the main issue behind this unprecedented spotlight imbalance: Caitlin Clark herself. When she walked into the league, she arrived as the most hyped player in years, a generational talent whose presence immediately boosted ticket sales, shattered TV ratings, sent jersey numbers soaring, and even increased snack sales at arenas. Everyone within the WNBA knew she would change things, but perhaps not everyone was prepared for the sheer magnitude of that change, or how it would reshape team dynamics. You had seasoned veterans suddenly finding themselves bombarded with questions about Clark in every single interview. You had teammates dealing with cameras constantly in their faces, simply because they happened to walk past her locker. It stopped feeling like a cohesive team, and began to resemble the Caitlin Clark Show, featuring the Indiana Fever as a supporting cast. This, crucially, isn't Clark's fault. The league, in its pursuit of unprecedented growth, made her the undeniable face of everything before she even had a chance to fully settle in. But imagine being someone like Lexie, a solid, consistent contributor who has endured rebuild after rebuild, only to find that now everything, every single narrative, revolves around one person. It's profoundly human to feel a bit overshadowed, especially when you're playing well, working tirelessly, and still getting discussed as little more than a supporting character in someone else's story. This unprecedented attention, while beneficial for the league, created palpable consequences that inevitably fueled internal tension. Throughout the season, beneath the surface of official statements and forced smiles, small unsettling moments subtly hinted at brewing discord. Nothing overtly wild or scandalous, but just enough to make observant fans and analysts go, think about those awkward bench reactions after certain plays, where body language spoke volumes louder than any words, or the noticeable hesitation, even outright absence, from some players rushing to help Caitlin up after she took a particularly hard foul. Fans noticed these microaggressions. The omnipresent cameras certainly noticed, and Lexie, observing it all unfold day after day, undoubtedly noticed too. It didn't help that Clark's every single move became absolute clickbait. If she tied her shoes, it made headline. If she managed a smile, it was framed as Caitlin Clark keeping positive spirits despite a rough season. If she looked visibly tired, it became Caitlin Clark carrying the weight of the WNBA on her shoulders. Meanwhile, Lexie could drop a crucial 15 points off the bench and barely merit a one-line mention in the post-game recap. These discrete signs of tension, slowly eroding team chemistry, were building blocks to the public statements we now hear. This constant, disproportionate spotlight clarifies why Lexie's tone in interviews makes so much sense. It wasn't fueled by malice or bitterness, but by an undeniable exhaustion born from navigating an impossible situation. She sounds tired, the kind of tired that settles in when your team is a constant headline, a perpetual reality show, instead of simply a basketball team striving for collective success. And while she hasn't uttered anything overtly negative about Caitlin, her carefully chosen words clearly indicate she's striving to maintain her peace, while subtly hinting that not everything has been sunshine, rainbows, and an endless supply of free Nike merchandise behind the scenes. She's tired of the incessant noise, tired of pretending everything's perfectly harmonious, and profoundly tired of acting as if she's oblivious to the glaring imbalance. She's not wrong either. The Fever's chemistry often looked visibly off at times, particularly late in the season. It was the kind of tension that rarely explodes publicly, but instead hums quietly, persistently, in the background. Some might argue this is just part of growing pains for any young team. Others contend it's the inevitable outcome when one player's star becomes so disproportionately large that it eclipses the team itself, and honestly, both perspectives can hold true. This fatigue, this quiet resignation, led directly back to her enigmatic comments about the sneaker game, revealing a deeper, more profound layer of meaning than initially perceived. Let's peel back another layer on that seemingly innocent sneaker game comment, because its true meaning cuts straight to the heart of the issue at hand. When Lexie specifically said she probably has the best sneaker game because she gets the most free shoes, it wasn't just playful banter. It was a loaded statement delivered with an almost imperceptible raise of the eyebrow that spoke volumes about the perks and preferential treatment that come with being Caitlin Clark. It's akin to a student remarking, "Yeah, she's really popular because the teacher gives her extra credit." On the surface, it might appear harmless, a benign observation, but you can feel the subtle undertones of sarcasm and underlying frustration sneaking through every word. This isn't about genuine animosity, it's about the quiet resentment that inevitably builds when one person consistently receives unearned advantages, disproportionate rewards, or an abundance of freebies that others, working just as hard, do not. And honestly, that's precisely what makes this story so compelling and so relatable. Lexie didn't need to launch into a full-blown rant or publicly drag anyone through the mud. She just needed a few carefully chosen words delivered with a particular inflection, and the internet, with its insatiable appetite for subtext and drama, did the rest, amplifying her message far beyond the locker room. This wasn't merely about shoes, it was a potent symbol of the larger economic and celebrity disparities at play within the team. Yet, Lexie's carefully timed revelations weren't solely about internal team dynamics. They were also a masterclass in strategic maneuvering amidst broader league uncertainty. Beyond the immediate locker room chatter and the symbolic weight of sneakers, there's a much larger story unfolding, the looming off-season uncertainty surrounding the collective bargaining agreement. The ongoing CBA talks have everyone on edge, and players like Lexie, who are entering restricted free agency, find themselves right in the middle of a potentially volatile landscape. If a new deal isn't finalized smoothly, things could get incredibly messy, adding an extra layer of tension and anxiety, especially for players who are already unsure where they'll play next year. And let's not overlook the impeccable timing of her statements. She's articulating all of this while free agency rumors are swirling, making it the perfect moment to send a clear, concise message to both her current team and any potential new suitors. It's a sophisticated declaration: hey, I can be loyal, but I'm also watching very closely how this plays out, and I'm prepared to make moves. Lexie isn't the type to instigate drama for its own sake, but her calm, measured honesty might have hit far harder and resonated more deeply than any full-blown public rant ever could. The way she phrased things made it sound like she's already emotionally half-packed, and that's precisely why her words carry such a powerful punch. They were measured, not angry, not bitter, just profoundly real.
Remember that seemingly innocuous sneaker game comment that kicked off this entire discussion?
It was never just about shoes, nor was it a fleeting, meaningless jab. Instead, Lexie's words were a carefully crafted signal, a tired but profoundly honest assessment of the overwhelming spotlight, the subtle cracks forming within the locker room's foundation, and her own increasingly uncertain future. It wasn't born of bitterness, but rather a quiet, dignified plea for balance in a league that has struggled to manage the unprecedented phenomenon of its biggest star. Her statements synthesized the months of in-season tensions, the disproportionate attention, and the personal toll it takes on those standing in the shadow of a supernova. The Indiana Fever's offseason promises to be anything but quiet, as players like Lexie grapple with their place in a rapidly evolving WNBA landscape, where individual stardom often threatens to eclipse collective ambition. The lingering question remains, can a team truly thrive and build lasting chemistry when one player's star shines so brightly, it inadvertently threatens to overshadow everyone else, even its most valuable contributors? What do you think about Lexie's comments and the intricate challenges of integrating a superstar like Caitlin Clark into an established team dynamic? Was Lexie justified in speaking out, or do you believe locker room issues should always remain private, handled behind closed doors? Let me know your thoughts and theories in the comments section below.